Hey YouTube, I'm RasrasMagas. This is not real life, and today I want to talk to you guys about Monster Hunter Wild. It's been a bit, but this is, we'll just say my general thoughts, so we could call it a review of Monster Hunter Wild as of Title Update 2 and about 300 so hours of playing it. And while I'm recording this, Title Update 3 information was just confirmed. You know, they just released some stuff with the TGS Capcom Online show. I'm not going to be talking about that right now, but I guess I need to get this done before it comes out on Monday. What is Monster Hunter? For those of you who are new to this, I guess it might be few and far between now because Monster Hunter Wilds did sell a lot of copies, but this is a hunting game. I was going to say fighting game, which is basically a bunch of boss fights that you track down the wild and you go fight. See what I did there? Each entry in the Monster Hunter series, this one is the 6th mainline entry, has their own different level of what leads up to a hunt, like the tracking, the fighting, etc. In Wild specifically, tracking is not really included in this game, and the way it was in previous entries where you had to pick up tracks and locate the monsters essentially, then eventually you would know where they were. But in this one you can just kind of find where they are from the get-go. You are a hunter in this game. Well, what is that? A hunter is a skilled person authorized by the guild, the Monster Hunters Guild, to hunt, and you use these specialized weapons that are how you'll basically be interacting with the monsters. Why do you do this? Well, the memes would lead you to believe that this is just for pants, but the in-game lore is essentially that you are part of a force that's working to keep a delicate balance between the raw power of nature and humanity's survival. And there's nothing malicious, it's just that, you know, if giant 30-foot monsters can go around breathing fire and they need to be put down, like, because there's thousands of them, that's what's happened. I think this is where the memes come from, where it's just about getting fancy pants and stuff like that. But a lot of people forget this, I think, maybe because you as a player will probably fight hundreds if not thousands of these monsters. But like, I mean, literally try to imagine that world where an animal the size of Rathalos can exist in the hundreds or thousands that you could kill and it still not be extinct. So that's kind of the offset there. And quite honestly, like, when you look at the world in that lens, it's kind of a miracle that the people in this world actually care about balance at all. But they do. And they are good for that. So in this entry, and it is in other entries too, but to a lesser degree, but particularly in this entry, the story really focuses on this aspect of what a hunter is. There are multiple things that will probably influence how you feel about the story to a degree or another. Those are how jaded you are as a person. If you think all animals are pets, for example, is all bears are Winnie the Pooh, they're not. Your tolerance for deviation from regular storytelling. So there isn't like a, oh, that's the bad guy, we need to stop him. This isn't that kind of game. You kind of need to be in the middle of these two things. So if you're like this versus like this,
kill them all! Yeah! Oh yeah! Yeah! Oh yeah!
the latter will probably have more fun playing this game. The last thing that will probably affect how you view the game or the story is if you understand that, unlike real life, in the world of Monster Hunter, the people are good. There's no bad people. There are people you can see may make mistakes, they might have misintentions, but there are no bad people in the world of Monster Hunter. If you're looking for a bad guy or a bad thing to defeat,
you're gonna have a bad time.
A negative of this story, which to be fair was more cinematic than it had been in the past, which was a bonus, is that the story is a little bit more hand-holdy than you would expect from a game like this. And there's a lot of walk and talk before you can get to what you got to do, because they want you to hear it, and I guess they're new to this kind of thing. And if you kind of skip everything,
you're gonna have a bad time,
because you can't skip it here. if you're playing on PC.
You're gonna have a bad time.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. The story can feel kind of incomplete at the completion point, but like most Monster Hunters, I assume everyone, if you're not aware, you're essentially waiting for the expansion pack and the title updates to come out, where they add a little bit more content here and there. And sometimes there's story content. Sometimes that will wait till the title update. Not the title update, the full expansion pass. So the ending can be kind of unsatisfying, but it does have a sort of conclusion. The TLDR is that there's this boy. This is him right here. He is from a group of people called the Keepers. They are guardians of a degree, whose cultural legacy goes back actual millennia. His home gets attacked and he gets separated from his people and he's lost. And as a result, the guild members find him and they task you with going to where he's from. And as part of your general mission of surveying the land, you have to help him find his family or his home. And along the way, you'll discover that there is more to this village than was previously thought. Gameplay kind of runs down like this in the old games, but essentially you pick a quest or one is assigned to you and you go out, you kill the monster, you get to have 3 lives, 3 chances. In community, it's called carts because when you die, you get sent back on the cart.
1, 2, 3.
You collect rewards by taking parts of the monsters, carving them up as you would like a game kill. And these result in various monster parts, which you can use to craft stronger gear, armor, etc. Then you go out and fight the stronger monster. The gameplay itself can vary very wildly depending on the weapon you choose. There's one of 14, or actually maybe 2 of 14 that you get to pick. So they added an extra pocket now for double the fun. And since I'm not really going to go into this like a guide, we'll say that here are the weapons that can block. And these weapons can't. The game themselves organizes these into a different category of sharp, blunt, and shooting damage. This is probably one of the better aspects of this game, but hunters have never been as strong as they are in this game. Monster Hunter Wilds introduces a new mechanic called the focus system, where essentially you activate a little reticle on screen and you can keep focused on that spot all the time. A lot of the old games was about learning how to position a little bit better, or knowing that you can hit on certain angles because you couldn't turn so quickly. Well, they fixed that here and makes you way more mobile and way more easily to keep track on the monster. Another part of this system is that by repeatedly attacking certain parts of the monster, you'll see a wound start to develop, and once it is fully open and wounded, you can launch a focus strike, take advantage of the wound. Does a lot of damage, has a cool effect, and some weapons actually benefit specifically by doing this. Another addition to Monster Hunter Wilds combat is the power clash and offset mechanic. Not all weapons can do these. Some weapons can do both of them. And here's a little clip just so you can get an idea of what it is. To best take advantage of this system, like in any Monster Hunter game, you're going to have to learn the patterns and the weaknesses of each monster and work your way to win. There are also elemental types, but again, this isn't a guide, so each monster devolves into a different elemental type and is weak to certain elements. It's not quite as many elements as Pokemon or something like that, but it's something you can use to take advantage of, or what most people do is just play raw damage. Really, the game is pretty wide in its berth and what it allows you to do. Another new change to what was formerly called the Expedition mode, I guess, in Monster Hunter World, is probably really the primary mode that Capcom wishes for you to play this game. And it is just an expedition. So you just get on your Sacred, the little bird guy you ride, and you just go out into the field. Monsters will spawn, they will despawn, you can kill them, more monsters will spawn later, you can check the time. It's cool. They kind of really just want you to stay out in the wild and hunt that way, it seems. And once you interact with a monster long enough, if you're in the wild, for example, just out and about, the more you attack it, eventually a quest will be authorized. You'll get a message from your handler. The guild authorizes this hunt, and you get to go through that and collect the rewards that way, all without breaking, loading, transferring back and forth, and that kind of thing. If you are a diehard old style player, you still can do this, especially now with the addition of the hunting hub area. Once you have it available, go to the quest counter, pick it up, or you just go to the handler and just talk to her and say, hey, I want to do this quest, see what she has available. You can do it that way, but then you do go through the I guess, short loading screens, and yeah, in and out. So when you start, load, go into the battle, finish, load, come back, right? So you can do it either way, but I think they really determined that they want you to play it as the go out into the wild and just kind of hunt. And the further you get along in the game, you'll be exposed to different habitats. Though there's only so many, but there are different biomes, and different monsters are only available in certain areas, and that's how they keep the areas from being overlapping too much, and they are distinct in that the flora and fauna are completely different, but there's some overlap. And I know I said roaming around is probably the intended way that they expect us to play this game, but this brings up what could potentially be considered like one of the first large problems of this game, and this has to do with traversal. So the traversal itself is not bad. It's not that like riding the bird sucks or anything like that. They're actually pretty good and pretty responsive. But the game defaults to having everything on autopilot when you start. And it takes some effort to shut it off because the menus are a little bit obtuse. And it's a little bit odd because it's a weird streamlining thing where they kind of want to do this. I've seen multiple big Monster Hunter people say that they either don't interact with this feature at all because they don't like that it's auto on the time, or that they don't remember where anything is because it's auto drive all the time. This seems to be some kind of combination of the Uber auto rides from Monster Hunter Wild that were added Monster Hunter World that were added really late in that game, where it was like a reward for having gone that far and you can kind of just get there, and the dog system from Monster Hunter Rise that you could just fully control and ride on. And like I said, while you can turn it off in the menus, it's a little obtuse on how to turn it off and how the turn off actually functions. So your Chocobo, your Sacred, will auto run toward your destination whenever you set one. If you're hunting a monster, that's pretty much your destination when it's assigned as your quest marker. The confusion comes, I think, well, for me it was, and then I eventually learned what it was. But so you get into the menu, and I turned it off immediately from the beginning. As soon as I could get access to the menu, I went in, started fiddling around until I figured out to turn it off. And then even then, it was still kind of like confusing to me. And what I figured out eventually was that even if you shut it off, there's no way to completely turn off this feature. And this is what I mean. So to summon, I play on PlayStation. To summon the bird, you can press a D-pad button. The one they tell you, if I'm not mistaken, if I recall correctly, is to press up on the D-pad. This, no matter what you do, if you've shut off auto, whatever on the menu mode, if you have a target, this will always summon your bird in autopilot mode. If you press down, it will summon the bird in manual mode. this part is not explained to you. If you press right, this is explained to you. The bird will come so you can switch weapons. However, what is not explained is that you're on the bird, you call him that way, it will automatically switch to auto run when the bird is, if you are not on it. If you're on it not moving, you can switch and it won't switch to auto run. So there you go. And if you press left, which they do tell you about eventually, is you can summon the bird. It will not activate auto run, and your hunter will check the pouch on the side of the bird. So that's a quick little primer for you, for those of you, because this actually I did think this was kind of confusing, but once you get used to it, it's not a big deal. It is unclear to me why auto running was given such a priority under the system. It seemed fine in Rise that it was free running and that you could just decide where to go. I mean, there were some places where you couldn't run, or you could only run a little bit while mounted. The Secret has similar things here where there are places that can't always go, and there are places where you can only go through it. And it's fine as long as it's in manual mode, but I guess they really wanted to streamline the game. It's unclear to me why they felt that they needed to streamline it that much, because the hunting aspect itself, which we'll get to I guess in a bit, is another thing that also receives some streamlining. And because of the way I play personally, I've tried to learn these maps and I can remember to a degree where things are, but I can tell you the temptation to just kind of say, hey, go over there is there. It happens to me sometimes, especially if I'm like getting a drink or something while I'm playing, or I'm just like the monster's running away and I need to like sharpen or something. It's easier to just let that happen. While I made it so that I have a general idea of where everything is in the map, I could see that a lot of people won't, because of it's just automatically set that way. And I don't imagine too many people fill in all the settings too much. And like I said earlier, you might have done that and it's still not been clear to you that it was active. So you might still be in auto mode, right? Combined with that, once you gain access to the ability to set up camps over different sectors of the map, you'll probably end up fast traveling too, which kind of also defeats the purpose of having this automatic auto run all the time. I'm of a two minds about it, I guess. You could say that like I can't decide if it needs to be removed or if it should be kept, but it is what it is. Another facet of this game that's been really streamlined is item collection. So again, for those of you who are unaware, a lot of items in the wild are things that you collect to make different items that are more useful. So the most basic example is you'll find a green plant, it says herb, and you grab it. Hunter, like I guess, grinds it up, converts it into a drink, you get a potion, healing item, you know, so on and so forth across the many items. So there are some people who I think really appreciate the old process, and I don't really care, but this has also been streamlined a lot, and it's pretty clever in how it's been done, but your outlook on it will vary depending on how you feel. So whenever you're on the hunt or just out and about, you're out, your cat partner's out, the palico, and your handler's out too. And if you're not paying attention, which might happen, you won't necessarily hear some of these calls, especially if you switch it to Monster Hunter language, because then you won't understand it. But these side characters who are with you all the time will constantly tell you every so often, like, hey, you know what? I also got you some stuff. I also did this while you were doing whatever. The wording isn't quite that, but that's essentially what they're doing. So it occurred to me after playing a lot, and then you'll also get access to people who you help in the story, and they'll be like, well, as a thanks for helping you, we'll just be on the lookout for whatever you want. And you can tell them just, hey, whatever you find is great, or I want this specifically. And that varies person to person. So there's actually a lot of ways, and it's pretty easy and not that deep before you get access to these things. So the item stream to you is pretty streamlined. And on top of that, money is very generous in this game. So you'll probably also just be able to buy a lot of things. The sales come up whenever there's an event. You know, those aren't super often, you know, they're seasonally tied, but the items also aren't that expensive. I have not come across where I've run out of money, which happened to me a lot in Monster Hunter World. But that's also a limitation of how I play, not a limitation of how the game is. I'm the kind of person, if you recall in this other video where I said my problem with Monster Hunter is that I can't stick to one weapon. So I end up going through a fad where like, hey, today I'm playing longsword. Then like I'll play it for a week. And then tomorrow I'm like, you know what? Hammer seems cool. And I'll start building all these hammers. And then like in those games, those cost a lot and it killed my money a lot. But the reason I mentioned this overall is if you really enjoyed the process of going out into the wild, finding all the items yourself, you can still do that, but just to know that you can't shut off these guys who are with you. And I mean, I guess you could make your cat stay home, but part of the preparation of it will be that these spirit people are just doing it for you. And ultimately, this itself may not be a problem. It's just something I noticed, but I think you can decide. You might feel it is a problem depending on how much you find the difficulty of the game to be difficult. And in going on with that, is Monster Hunter Wilds difficult?
How about no?
And my sense of the difficulty of this game can be, it's quite possible my sense is very skewed. But I've played Monster Hunter World, Monster Hunter Rise, and Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. And Monster Hunter Stories, right? So I haven't played all of them, but I do feel like this one is a bit easier than some of the other ones. And that is due in large part to the fact that the hunter is more capable than they've ever been in any of the games prior to this. And a lot of the items that you require to make until you get to the title update 2 stuff don't require as much effort to get. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think this is the only problem, or like this is the biggest problem with this game, or that this is really what's preventing people from liking it, but I do think it is easier. I think this is most easily evidenced by the fact that as soon as the game came out, there were like way more speedrunners showing off that like, hey, I killed this crazy thing at 2 minutes. I did this at 1 minute. I did this blindfolded with this thing at 5 minutes. You know, like there's just a lot more of those people. So maybe there's just a lot of us out there who are better at Monster Hunter than we anticipated. But the fact that so many of those came up so quickly right after the open beta, right after the launch of the game, every time a monster is launched, you can see a video like that day, probably, about I beat the monster in less than 5 minutes. So I do think it's a little bit easier than it has been. And honestly, whether that's good or bad will depend on you, the player. And Capcom has heard people's complaints about this. They are addressing it. However, I think in a scale of ramping up, that can probably need to be tweaked. And I personally did not find too much difficulty in the game. I'm not saying I never carded. I'm not like one of those liars who make those statements. I have carded, but I never felt like it was a big deal. Like it was something that was insurmountable until pretty late, until title update 2, actually. And as of right now, there are probably like only 3 monsters who, when I play against them, I'll be like, I might cart this one, and well, I don't think still I'm gonna fail. I have to pay more attention and be like concerned about them. And those are Gore, Legiacris, and Steve. This may be due to that a lot of the monsters, while are kind of tweaked to deal with the focus system, a lot of them don't really feel like they are. So while you can go crazy and style on the monster, a lot of them can't do that until you get further on. This is something I've been noticing more recently, and it could be some back-end tweaking, which I think does help with the difficulty if you want to inflate it in an artificial way, because there's no way to make it happen. Is when the game was first being promoted, they talked about this pack system. You see it in the Doshiguma trailers, and there's the Alpha Doshiguma pack of guys, and if you're fighting and all of them are there, that is harder. So I have sometimes just done that without making them go away. I think they could use this more, and on the back end, I think they are trying to tweak it so that this happens more. This is something I see with Rathalos and Rathian, where those can be some of the more difficult things if the stars align and you get the right situation. You're out in the wild, and all of a sudden there's 2 Rathalos and a Rathian on top of you. What do? Those can be really thrilling, but you can't always manufacture this situation. And another thing that may also help you escalate your sense of difficulty is something that I do. I don't do this just because like I'm like so good I need to make the game harder. I do this because just how I play, and I don't like to switch my armor for every monster just to make sure I've min-maxed everything. I'm just not a min-maxer. So once I get the armor that works for me based on damage reduction number, that's it. I kind of stick to that. So essentially I get to the end of the game, I found that first end game armor, maxed it out, and nothing provides more physical defense than that armor right now. So I don't change it. I might change the gems and stuff to then sort of min-max if I'm really concerned with especially the arc-tempered monsters right now. But I'm not going to make a whole new set just to fight the monster. And that can also help you with if you're concerned about the difficulty. But overall, the game has, I don't know if they have too low life or they're too easy. It's hard to say, but your hunts, depending on the tier of monster, are going to be anywhere between 2 to 5 minutes. I would guess maybe 8 if you're on a low level monster. 5 to 10 kind of, depending. Maybe not even 10 on a mid-level monster. And probably around 15, 20 at the most on a high-level monster. I don't think I fought anything in this game and it took the whole hour that they give you. I mentioned it briefly earlier, and I also did mention that Capcom is listening, so they've been hearing us and stuff like that. So up until the title update 2 section of things, a lot of materials also just drop really easily, and they're pretty liberal with these materials. So you can hunt the monster once or twice and then kind of have everything you need, unless there's like you're doing what I do and you just try to build everything because they made it possible. So now rarity is becoming a bigger thing. You can start worrying about the desire sensor again. But you know, things are ramping up again as we get further along. Finally, performance. This isn't something I normally care about, but I do know it is a concern for PC players. And for those of you who play on PC, let me just say this.
富、名声、力、この世の全てを手に入れた男、海賊王ゴールド・ロジャー。彼の死に際に放った一言は人々を海へ駆り立てた。
俺の財宝か？欲しけりゃくれてやる。探せ！この世の全てをそこに置いてきた。
男たちはグランドラインを目指し夢を追い続ける。世はまさに大海賊時代。
The one patch! The one patch is real! I play on PS5 Pro. In general, I haven't noticed anything that is concerning to me. I'm sure there are dips here and there on something, especially when there's a lot of stuff happening. I'm not a frame rate person. I don't care. As long as there's only 2 situations I care about frame rate. If the frame rate is generally stable, that's fine. You know, as long as we're not dropping into single digits and then going back up to double digits, that's okay. And the second frame rate situation that I think matters is if somebody else isn't getting an advantage over you because your frame rates are different. Those are the only 2 cases I think frame rate matters. But the biggest place I see the drops is when you load the main desert stage, the windswept plains, and if there is like a bazaar sale where like the I can't remember what the ship's called, the support ship comes in. They used to call it the Argosy, comes in, and then there's like all of these NPC standing there, and you load the level, and there's a sandstorm, yeah, you're gonna see a lot of jitteriness right there, but then it goes right away. I don't know if this is because I play on PS5 Pro, but it works for me. So I'm sorry for you on PC. I hear that they're working on it, but as of right now, there is a lot of performance issues on PC. Ultimately, I would say Monster Hunter World started as a game. Well, Monster Hunter Wild started out with, you know, a lot of stumbles and like some weird choices for, especially for veteran fans and maybe new players alike. But it turns out they're actually listening to us. So while they are trying to fix the game, and there are some issues, especially if you're on PC, it seems fine on PlayStation. If you're unsure, especially on PC, I would just say wait and listen to see what people are saying about it. It is a good game, but just wait, because the performance is probably going to affect how you feel about it. If you're not a PC player, I mean, either way, you honestly can wait. Sure, like you might miss some of the festival stuff, but those come around eventually, so you'll get those too. Everything is like moving up. Like, I don't think it's a bad investment. I mean, I've already spent 300 so hours. You can see the image right here on this game. This is my go-to game when I can't think of anything else to play, and if I'm in between newer releases, and I've become a person who just like kind of comes in, do my hunts. New event comes in, I check it out, do the hunts. New game comes out, I leave Monster Hunter for a bit, come back. You know, Monster Hunter Wilds, while I don't know if it's the same as Monster Hunter World was for me, because that was really my first real Monster Hunter, and that game's always going to be special in that way. And for a lot of us, I think that's the case. And maybe our expectations were not properly aligned for this game, which, you know, that's on them. They didn't manage it properly. But as things stand, things can only get better. The longer we're in the game, the better it gets. And like I said, I still did spend 300 plus hours, and I plan to do so even more. Well, it's great. Not as good as it could have been, but it's gonna get there. And that's really all I can say about it. So when people give it mixed reviews, or people are saying it's like one of the best games ever, I can really understand these ratings of between 7 to 10, you know? It really depends on where you fall on these things. But Monster Hunter is always a great game, in my opinion. And if you want to check it out, I definitely suggest it. Just be aware of where you're playing it, and you won't have such a bad time. But either way, thanks for listening to me. I'm RasrasMagas. This is Not Real Life, and I'll see you guys next time.